Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of One Dude Does a Podcast, and then brings random people on. This is my guest, Chasey Sedam. Is that how you say your last name? Sedam?
Honestly, no, I haven't met anyone in my family who says my last name the same way. I say Sedam.
Okay.
Some others say Sedam.
Okay.
No, there's many variations. I go with CDM.
Okay. CDM. This is Chasey CDM.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that sounds like a rapper name,
No,
CDM at the
right?
end. Yeah. But I reached out to her because she is president of the Stand Up Comedy Club, not realizing that I had actually seen you perform before. I didn't know that. I just saw you. I was like, oh, because you sent me that video. If you had never sent me that video, I would have met you and then had a fan interaction in real life. You know what I mean? Because
That
I
would've
had
been so
seen you.
funny.
I would have seen you and be like, oh, I saw you perform on the first open mic night that I went to.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So she agreed to be on the podcast because she too is a narcissist. Just kidding.
Right.
We have everyone admitting to being a narcissist just for.
I mean,
being
I
on
feel
a
like you
podcast.
kind of have to be here, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Because I'm gonna ask you a ton of questions and you're gonna talk about yourself for like.
Yeah,
an
exactly.
hour.
That's like my favorite thing. Like
Yeah.
that's what I know the most about.
Yeah. So exactly. So I don't know. I wouldn't say. I think it's just talking to people and learning about things. I do love doing this. So I was really excited for this episode because I'm not getting into stand-up comedy, but I like being on stage. I like telling jokes and I like talking. And I've done some stand-up sets. And so obviously I'm going to reach out to the comedy club. But beyond that, if you want to do just some groundwork, like what do you do for the club? What is that? Like, what is the stand-up comedy club?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So good, in fact, I don't know.
Okay.
So here's the backstory, right? So the stand-up comedy club, we'll say like I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, we had a president basically running shows and like really marketing himself and not doing anything for the club. And then there were members that were just kind of sitting around doing nothing and they wouldn't really perform. And then when girls would come to the club, they would like creep them out. Like girls would not come to the club for the longest time because they would just like awkwardly hit on them in club.
Really?
Yeah, so that was not good. And so membership was going down. And then eventually like we had a treasurer. So like the next year we had a treasurer that just never showed up. We had no idea how much money we had. We knew that it was in cash. We didn't have a school like bank account. Like it was extremely unorganized. So then the president held a coup. And so there is actually somewhere online a stand-up comedy club constitution that must be followed at all costs.
Wait, hold on. So you guys actually overthrew the stand-up comedy club government.
Yeah.
How does that start? Who started that and why?
So,
How were they there for that long? And why didn't you guys just start a new club?
well, that's the thing. Like, all of this happened, like, within the span of, like, 2 years. So, basically, like, the guy who was president at the time, he was in club for, like, 2 months and then became president because, like, no one was doing their jobs and he just miscellaneously got elected. So, all the other cabinet was elected and there, but they would never come to club meetings. They wouldn't communicate. Like, they were just MIA. And there was no, like, set rules to, like, hold them accountable of, like, hey, you're kind of like a leadership role. You need to be here. Like, we need your assistance in like running shows, like running our money, like what's going on. And they were just constantly giving us a hard time. So we were just like, no, we're gonna
Were
write
you a
it.
part of the club while this was happening, or do you just know about this?
I literally had just started club. I literally like walked in on my first day and they're like, all right, guys, so what are we gonna do about like we we have to restructure this club is like how I got there. And I
So
was
you
just
got
like,
there right after the coup. You weren't like, were you a part of the?
I was not part of the coup. I mean, I helped write the Constitution afterwards, but it was like after everything had been done, because like we had to basically reset the rules to like make sure that whoever's in cabinet like is going to be there, and like essentially like we framed it in a way to kick all the old people out because they weren't doing their jobs and they wouldn't show up to mics or anything. No, it was a mess, right? And so then the new presidents, they were kind of older. And they were also like kind of from the Des Moines area, so they didn't really focus on a lot of the Iowa State stuff, like our own shows and like working with like the Student Union Board or Grandma Mojo's. They were focused on trying to do open mics in Des Moines, which isn't really helpful because they're all at bars and we're college students.
Yeah.
So like for one, we can't even get in. Two, if we want to drink, like we have to find a way to get ourselves all the way from Des Moines back to Ames.
Yep.
It just like wasn't very sustainable. I didn't really like it, and that's just kind of what they did. And so they were kind of doing everything on the fly without any records. Like they held a coup and they had to restart entirely. And they didn't make they made the rules and then didn't follow their own rules very good, which makes a lot of like gray fuzzy lines that are hard to follow. And so then basically I was like one of the only new members that had stayed long enough to like be even mildly prepared to be a president. And so no one ran against me. I had ran for vice president and a social chair. And every election prior, like I lost. Like I never won a single stand-up comedy club election, but president, no one ran against me because no one wanted that job.
I am flabbergasted at the idea of so much drama in a club. That's
the stand-up comedy
the
club.
stand-up. You'd
The
think
least essential club possible.
yeah, I have so many questions.
Right. Go ahead,
so,
fire away.
Yeah,
I doubt I know them.
yeah. First off, to touch up on the going to Des Moines thing, that would be so scary if the goal of your club is to learn how to do stand up or to like do stand up and it's like we're going to go in front of real people, because if you've been to the maintenance shop, like the ISU open mic nights, those are the friendliest people you can find.
Oh my gosh,
They
they're
will
so
laugh
sweet.
at anything. They will laugh at the most unfunny thing, the worst singing, because they're all really good people and wholesome people.
Right.
And so it's like they're a super positive crowd just to get your feet wet and see what it's like to do stand up. I felt super welcomed going there, and every single
Right.
person before me, super welcome. But then there's like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna take you up to Des Moines where the drunk grandmas are, and then they're gonna not laugh at you
No,
and
it
like boo
is.
you off stage.
And it's so bad because a lot of them like are older, like they're like 40-year-old people, and like the people
In the stand up comedy club or the people in Des Moines?
in Des Moines.
Oh, okay.
In Des Moines, but like the people who perform in Des Moines are also around that age. Like it's like local people of Des Moines performing there, and so one thing that they're very guilty of is like any comedian that goes and watches comedians instantly thinks they're the funniest, so they're not gonna laugh at anyone else's
Oh, yeah,
jokes.
yeah.
Obviously, that would be way too cool.
They're practiced, they're well versed.
Exactly. And so like we would go to these places and like the comedians wouldn't laugh at us, and then it's an older crowd, so they didn't even understand like our humor.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like they would go up and tell like these older people go up and tell like the corniest jokes I've ever heard in my life. Half the time like I listen to it and I'm like, you know what? I don't know the exact post on Facebook that I saw that, but I know I saw that on Facebook. I
Yeah.
can't believe you just said that on stage.
Yeah.
And the whole crowd will laugh. The whole crowd thinks that is the funniest thing, but then I'll go up there and like I could tell any sort of original joke, and like I think I'm just too young, and so they're like, "Oh, this youngster coming up here.
Yeah.
You think you're funny, huh?" And
Yeah.
it's I don't know, it's so bizarre. And especially like when I was underage, like they would still want me to go to Des Moines and do open mics, but like they don't even let you in. But luckily like I was short enough that I could just like sneak in behind the boys, and like somehow I never got caught.
Wow.
Right. And then if you go on stage and if you're funny enough, no one's going to ask you any questions.
Yeah. Well, if you're wearing the camouflage suit that you have on, you can just walk right in.
Right. No one will ever know.
Well,
But yeah, I don't like them. And you're right. It does give a lot of anxiety to like new people trying to perform. Like it is just a totally different beast than like, just a group of your peers. Like it doesn't even have to be people but it's like people in around campus, like is just familiar enough faces.
Yeah, who are living the same life as you.
Right.
Which is a big thing, and it's kind of what I'm noticing. I think the hard part is to be a good stand-up comedian, you have to be able to accept criticism and adapt to it. Because every single stand-up comedian is going to be like, oh no, they just don't get it. Or, oh no, their humor isn't mine. Or like there's so many excuses you can give as to why your stand-up isn't good. And it might just like every comedian says that, but some of them have to just kind of be bad comedians. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, every comedian can't be good. And so when they say stuff like that, you always have to be like, well, take it with a grain of salt. But when you're going to Des Moines, like that's actually an audience shift. It's a huge audience shift.
Right.
Because when I did my stand-up set, I knew beforehand my dad was not going to be a huge fan of the comedy. And it's just because he doesn't live the life that I live. I could tell you beforehand which people were going to like it and then which people weren't. Because the reason why I did stand-up was because I have certain friends who share my sense of humor. And I
Right.
want to make jokes basically to them.
Yeah.
But the thing is when I get that criticism, I can't just be like, oh, you don't get it. You just don't like it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I like, because that I'm never going to get better at stand-up if I do that. And so there's this weird line that you have to do to where it's like, how much can I hurt my integrity by saying maybe this joke wasn't funny? And is it actually just an audience thing? And I think
Right.
with the Des Moines thing, that's just too big of a jump. Especially, you can't do that to new comedians.
No,
That's
right.
way too big.
But
way too big of a
in
problem.
a certain aspect, you learn a very valuable lesson. You know, it is good to listen to advice, but some advice, you know, is not necessary. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's kind of like, that's one like benefit of having the stand-up club. One thing that we do well is like every club session that we have is we kind of workshop jokes with each other. So it's like us, other guys, other bros, you know, we write jokes and then we can kind of workshop them together, and we know each other's style and we kind of know like general of what audience does. But like to listen to the critiques of the audience at a certain point, like you get too self-conscious, you get like too anxious of like what they think. Like comedy truly has to be kind of like your own form of art, right? It's funny if you're confident enough and you know it's funny. If it's something that you thought was funny, there must be some sort of value to that originally. And when it comes to like people in Des Moines, their opinion's just not valuable. It's not worth having at that point.
That's another thing. It's like, do I even want to make this person laugh? Like,
Right.
if they don't have the same humor that I do I want to make them laugh? I do think there's an art. It kind of just depends. Like, if you do it for fun, like on a hobby, that's absolutely the way to go. But if you want to be the next Kevin Hart, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be famous off comedy, you have to find a medium. And that's why I don't have an interest in like pursuing this in a professional way, because I'm just not willing to not do what I think is funny because I want to reach a different audience. And there's definitely value to that. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to poop on that concept of like their opinion isn't valid, because it is, but it's not valid to you. You know, it's not
Right.
valid like to a person if they don't want it to be valid. It makes sense
Right.
for it not to be valid.
Definitely. And it's just, you know, I think like if people sit here, everyone tries to be the next Kevin Hart, like it'll never work. Like I feel like unless you're truly organically yourself and like you can come up with your own style, like you'll end up being the next Amy Schumer. You're just stealing other people's jokes. You stole someone else's style, right?
I was going to ask you about your opinion on Amy Schumer. That's funny.
I don't like Amy Schumer. Oh my God, I don't like Amy Schumer.
So I have to tell you this now. Me and my buddy, what we would do is we do this thing called the good day. And so what we do is we're like, this day is designed to make us feel as good as possible. It's like this day is it's got to be as productive, as self-serving as possible. So it's like wake up early, wear nice clothes, make breakfasts, make good healthy meals, work out, read, do yoga, like all this stuff. Just like
Wow,
a really
self-care.
nice, good, like a self-care Sunday. You know what I mean? Really nice, good day. And we had done like 9 of these, and we were like, what would be the bad day? Like if we wanted to make us feel as garbage as possible without like any substance, like what would we do? And the worst part of that day, we drank a ton of energy drinks, absolutely bodied our sleep cycle, like ate garbage food. We stayed in bed as long as possible, and to top it all, we had ran the gauntlet and watched both of Amy Schumer's comedy specials. No showering, no brushing her teeth, no fixing her hair, no changing clothes.
Oh
Heat
my
all the way
God.
up, and under those covers, it was all 3 of us in one bed. Under the covers.
Were you spooning?
No, no, we were next to each other like sardines, like this, the whole time. And it was like Robot Chicken, where he like pops his eyes open like this, watching Amy Schumer. That was easily the worst part of it. Every single other minute of that I would do that 20 times if it meant never watching both of Amy Schumer's comedy specials again.
And oh my God, and it's like honestly just so repulsive to a point. Like half the jokes like are stolen anyway. Like it's not even original. And then okay, I love female comedians, but I like even with male comedians, I don't like comedians that like just only talk about sex and their genitals, like purely, honestly only. And it's like at a certain point, it's just not funny. You know, it's like, you know, people who use a lot of curse words just for the sake of it's funny. Like to a certain extent, you know, they are funny, but if you overuse it, now you ruined it. Now you took away its glamour. So when Amy Schumer's out here talking about her labia constantly, you know, you can only take so much like fat labia. Like God, like before you have to just like, you know, start working on your will or something. Like
I'll say before like the audience is just watching and they're like, okay, I feel kind of uncomfortable. Like there's a moment, and it's the same thing. Like it's the same thing with music too. Like overly sexual music. I don't care if it's a girl or a guy. Overly sexual, maybe it's old school, but like overly sexual music just makes me uncomfortable. Like my favorite band of all time is a band called Ninja Sex Party. And
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, and they sing songs that are so funny, all about like sleeping with women and just like their adventures and getting rejected and just a bunch of like kind of gross comedy stuff. The stuff that is on the radio right now is just foul compared to that. because they're not joking about it.
I know.
They're
I think
not
that's
kidding.
the difference.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
They're not kidding. The stuff that they say, like my girlfriend is so innocent, and then she'll throw on like Cardi B and start just rapping it out, and it's like, who are you? Like,
What
who
is
am I?
going on right
This
now?
is like infinitely more foul than anything I've ever played in front of you, and the stuff I'm listening to is bad, and this is worse. And so it's the same thing with Amy Schumer.
Right, right. Okay, well, so like WAP, for example, like WAP, like in the right setting, goes hard as shit. But am I allowed, how many curse words am I allowed per second?
I'd just keep it down.
Okay, okay.
So don't sing the lyrics to WAP.
Got it. Well, it's just like WAP itself has a time and a place, but unfortunately, that time and a place only occurs like
When you're plastered.
0.02% of the time of your life. But what makes it worse is like when people like Ben Shapiro were going out and just like
Reciting the lyrics.
and like reading into it too much and like outing himself, like calling himself out in the hardest way possible. Like, wow, your wife finds you so unattractive. Oh my God, that's so sad for you.
Is that what you're saying about Ben? Because he was reading that out loud.
Well, he was reading it out loud and like talking about how like it is physically impossible for a woman to experience that much moisture. That is sign of an infection.
I've seen those memes. Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, dang.
It's like, come on, man.
So your wife is dry like that all the time?
Yeah.
Man, that's such a sad life.
I think someone went up during one of his Q&As and said that to him, something similar like that.
Right.
Like they were reading out like a Twitter thing. It's like, Ben Shapiro, how do you feel about this? And then like he obviously answered, he's like, well, I don't think my wife's genitalia is of any of your business, or something like that. It was so funny. But yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like, I understand where he's coming from when he reads it, but you just gotta let it go in one ear and out the other. You can't go all out on it.
Like by adding to it, like you made it worse.
Yeah.
And now you just
Yeah.
made yourself look so much more foolish.
It's like inherently in that he would have just brought himself down to the level that or who does it? Is that Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B who does WAP?
I'm pretty sure it's a duo. I'm pretty sure it's the both of them.
Oh, it's the combined effort.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
The axis of evil.
Yeah, yeah. He brought himself down to that level by doing that.
Right,
So,
no, he
yeah,
did.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And you know what? That's why Amy Schumer's got to stop.
Yeah, and what's bizarre to me, where do you think her success comes from then?
Millennials.
Is that what you think it is?
It's got to be. It's like millennials who don't actually think about the jokes. Like you've seen like the Tampax commercials where it's just like Amy Schumer like, I'm on my period.
No, thank God I haven't.
What? Maybe it's just because like I'm a woman and I have YouTube. Like those are the ads we get.
That's what they know.
But it is literally just her yelling about like, yeah, I bleed, I ovulate. What's it to ya? And it's just kind of like one of those like millennial like all in your face things, if that makes sense. Like it's just like oddly cringe and gross.
Yeah,
and it's just like
it's too vocal to be natural.
too vocal and too personal. And so it's like there's just like, you know, it's the same moms who you know, the Karen haircut, they got the sunglasses, you know, they're driving their kids like to soccer practice, to karate. They're like zoom in and then they just got Amy Schumer playing on the radio.
My grandma loves Amy Schumer.
Does she drive her kids around?
No. If you met her, honestly, that's surprising. No, it doesn't. She's a huge comedy person, though.
Mm-hmm.
So once you listen to so much comedy, I think you're just looking. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You like Amy Schumer before you heard any of her stuff. You know, she's one of those people. She's like, woman doing comedy, so I have to like it. Which is why I think that's such a based thing to say, that you can say you like women doing comedy, but Amy Schumer takes it too far. That's a really respectable thing to say.
Right, because like I feel like all women have the capacity, and like women should be encouraged like to do comedy and stuff. Women are super, super funny. Amy Schumer's not one of them. That sucks.
She's one of the she's one of the statistic, I guess.
Exactly. Like, you know, you can't all be winners. Like there's plenty of like male comedians who are also terrible. Like we're just gonna sit here and pretend like every female comedian who goes up is gonna be the best ever. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like that leaves no room for growth. Like you're just like, you know, you're just being someone's yes man. Like at that point, like it almost becomes like even more disrespectful to not be honest and just be like, yo, that was a little bad. But you know, it's just got to be reasonable. Like I feel like a lot of women just experience like, you know, like even harsher criticism than necessary, or like the criticism is just not even aimed at like critiquing the jokes or like what was actually going on. Like the critiques almost become personal and it's just not necessary, and that's what makes it bad. Mm-hmm. But critiquing itself is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is kind of what we were talking about. And it's nice to hear you say that, because a lot of people, because playing both sides of the coin, like I think Joe Rogan as a podcaster is fantastic. He does a good job. Mm-hmm. His comedy though is just as bad as Amy Schumer's.
I've
It's
never even
it's
touched that beast.
bad. It's bad. Like I think he's one of those people to where it's just like loud equals funny, and then sexual weed humor, and it's like,
Literally.
and it's like I can't get down with that. And the thing is both of them at the very least they have talent. Like Amy
Yeah.
Schumer and Joe Rogan have talent, and we could fall into that category of we just don't think that humor's funny. Because
Right.
we can like I wouldn't say that they're objectively unfunny. I would just say I actively dislike them.
Right.
And I just don't like that style of humor.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that it's their fault that it's that way. I think the only line where you cross is when like if Amy Schumer puts out like you just don't think I'm funny because I'm a woman, or like you don't think this because you hate something stupid that's
Right.
unrelated to the fact that no, I don't like you because I don't like your humor. You know what I mean? Like that's a
Joe
respectable
Rogan
thing to
out here.
say.
You just don't like my comedy because you guys are woke libtards.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't know. Like I haven't heard him say anything about that. I don't think he gets as much criticism as Amy Schumer though.
Yeah.
Because I think same with anything. And it's something that I've talked about. I think on like literally every single episode of this podcast. But I'll say it again. Just following somebody blindly because you agree with what they say in general, or that you like them, or that you're supposed to like them, is the silliest ideology to have. And it's the same thing with Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
a lot of people I think will turn a blind eye because they like his podcast or they like his political views, and they'll just turn a blind eye to his comedy, and they'll be like, I love it because it's him. But
It's
they
just
might
so
not
weird.
like
Like
it.
you're like losing like a true aspect of like the quality. Like it's almost like you're not even absorbing the content anymore. Like you're just like that. I feel like that's the
You're
true
just a
like
view.
sheep. That's
Yeah.
the sheep.
Yeah.
Like if you could just follow someone and just be like, wow, this person has no flaws. This is everything that every human should strive to be. Like there is no set and fast way. Like to say that everyone needs to be exactly like this. This is the only right. Like that's so boring.
Yeah, and
Honestly.
and to only be on like one side of something. Like if you think that you just happen to fall into every single thing that one side believes, that just can't be true.
Right.
That just and if you can't admit that, I just it feels like it's dishonest. And
Right.
the thing is that everybody I could have this conversation with everybody and nobody would disagree with me
Right.
because nobody knows that they're like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everyone thinks that they aren't, and then they are, and it's like that's the hardest part about this. It's like, let's say thousands of people listen to this, and all 1,000 of them are going to be like, that's not me, but like
It is.
one of them kind of has to be. You know,
Right.
it's kind of like, have you heard about the psychology thing where it's like, if you and he did this to us in one of my psych classes. He sent out a survey, like a live survey, and he's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you? And 100% of the class was above a 7. And it's like statistically impossible.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were to just rank us, some of us would have to be 1s, and that's just how it is.
Right.
And so it's like to say, and that's kind of the thing where like everyone is obviously going to rank themselves higher, and if they were to actually think about it, that's not how they are.
But then you also have error just because, like, I feel like it does add to the quality of driving that we are college students and you have a little more knowledge in that way in itself. So maybe statistically, like, in a general population, there's more 1s, but I feel like in a college setting, there's probably a little higher than 1. I feel like it's the lowest you probably get is like a 4 or a 5.
I don't. Do you walk on campus or do you?
Oh, I skate on campus. I walk on campus. I am a menace.
Yeah.
I love walking in front of cars.
I think my favorite thing is the hierarchy of speed on campus.
Right.
If you are walking, you could just walk with your eyes closed and earplugs in. And if anything happened to you, they're in the wrong.
Every time.
Yeah, if you take the responsibility of going anything faster than a walking pace, that's your job. Because I longboard around, and the amount of people that I like pass inches by them, and they
Right.
just like they don't even flinch.
At all.
Yeah, because they're like, if he hits me, that's that's his fault. So, and it's like it's the same thing with cars. Like people don't even look both ways. Like they'll just skate down. It's like if a car hits me, that sounds like a hospital bill that they have to pay. So
No,
like,
right? It's
sounds
like-
like missed classes to me. So
No, everyone is just like, anything for a quick dollar,
yeah,
broken ribs, broken arm, punctured lung.
That's-
Free college
sounds
tuition
like
now?
that sounds like a lawsuit if the bus hits me. So.
Well, no, they actually say don't do that because there was actually a girl who got hit by a bus and like died.
Yeah, I
or
heard about
something.
that.
Yeah, it's not true. She didn't
Yeah.
get any money because she like died.
Yeah, I was a Destination Iowa State team leader, and I told that to like everyone, and everyone was like super excited, like I'm just gonna get hit by a bus, and I was like actually, and there was no talking after that.
Listen,
It's
bro,
just
it's not
good.
worth it.
Yeah, I was like,
The college doesn't value you.
I was like, let's see what happens if you do that. Let's go ahead and try that. Yeah.
Let's see what the bus has to say.
Yeah. Let's see what the bus driver has to say about that.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited for Thanksgiving to come around. Just for I remember last Thanksgiving, the Rides, they put like these big like turkey cutouts on the front and the backs of the buses. And like, could you imagine getting hit by the bus with a giant turkey on it?
With a turkey. So you see the turkey when it hits you, and then you see it when the bus goes over you.
Right.
And then on its way out, it's
right.
like, it's spitting dust at you when
and
you're
you know
on the
what?
ground.
It gives you the true Thanksgiving spirit, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for Thanksgiving because the dining hall had the most bomb Thanksgiving meal I've had in years. Like, I love my family's cooking, okay? They're really good. But the dining hall, that made me feel like grandma was cooking me a Thanksgiving meal. I mean, that was delicious. I had a buddy there. We got 4 plates, and we went nuts on that. It was so good.
I miss a dining plan. I haven't had a dining plan in 3 years, and that's so sad.
Where did you just do it your freshman year?
Yeah, I only did it when I was in the dorm, and every year I've been in an apartment. I was like, man, especially like when COVID started, I was barely even on campus. I didn't even have any on-campus classes, so I was like, well, if I'm gonna be in my apartment all the time, I'm eating mac and cheese and Jack's Pizza, I guess.
Did you learn how to cook, or did you just...
Oh, I love cooking.
Okay.
I like, I make some really good white chicken chili. I got some waiting at home for me, actually. I'll just make like a huge batch of soup, and that's what I'll eat all week. So I make a really good bacon potato soup, white chicken chili. I went keto for a little while. I know how to make a lot of keto meals too, a lot of good casseroles that way. Me and my roommates, we used to do a cooking Tuesday. So it was like we'd have our little girly girls night, and we would get like
Girl boss.
Yeah, exactly. We would girl boss the house. We would get like clearance wine or like the cheapest wine we could find at the Aldi, and we would like learn to make something new. So we learned how to make homemade ravioli. We learned how to make beignets. We would make like chicken parm. We would make like different casseroles. We made all sorts of stuff. We wanted to find like more recipes to put kale in, because we were like, wow, we should be totally girl boss and eat so healthy.
Kale?
Yeah, we're gonna eat kale. We are so popular.
Kale is worse lettuce, but...
Oh my, well, actually, if you take it and if you just like put it in a skillet with like a little soy sauce, a little honey, and like a little bit of pepper, it's actually a really tasty little snack. Like, I don't like it raw. But like, I don't know. I was just really drunk, I think, and
and you're like, this is it,
you know
right
what?
here.
I gotta eat healthy.
Right here. You just started drinking the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so good. But no, me and my roommates cook a lot. I'm more of like the cook. I make a lot of the dinner. My roommate, she was sitting with me out in the lobby. She's the baker, so
she's the dessert.
Yeah, she makes cookies. Like, I'll just come home and there's like pita bread on the stove. I came home last week and she made cinnamon raisin bread, just sitting there, homemade from scratch. Dude, cinnamon raisin bread.
I'm actually super jealous because...
Oh my gosh, it is so iconic. Like, you just come home and like it just like smells like warm bread.
You're basically married to your roommates.
Literally. I'm obsessed with them. Well,
Yeah.
It's been so sad. So I've lived in the same apartment for 3 years, but I have not had the same like it hasn't been the same set of people every year. So the first year I moved in there, it was me, that roommate, and then another girl I went to high school with, and a girl I met at the dorms. And we had a great time living together. It was so fun. And that's when we did like a lot of the cooking, and like we would like go to the gym at like 2 a.m. because we didn't want to see people there.
There you go.
That was a good time. And like, we just went through COVID together. Like, we truly like trauma bonded that way. And then one of my friends, she ended up wanting to move in with her boyfriend. They had been together for a while, so they got a house. And then another one of my friends, she was from Chicago before I met her in the dorms. And she just had too much swag to be in Iowa. Like, she just hated it here. Like,
she's too city.
Exactly. Like, all the guys were just like super weird and awkward to her. Like, honestly, like, it was so embarrassing for the state of Iowa's men. Like, they really gave
they really
like,
dropped
a bad
the
rap.
ball on that. We lost
bad.
one good girl leaving Iowa.
An icon. We lost an icon. I would do anything for that woman, and the fact that a man in Iowa could not
wasn't
just, like,
good
be
enough
normal,
for her.
That's how you know I gotta leave the state.
Yeah. You're next.
Exactly. So she ended up moving back to Chicago. She goes to Illinois State. Love her. If you're listening to this, Allie, I love you.
Yeah, send it. I can't believe she left home cooked meals every day. Going back,
I know.
That's the worst. But
you want to know what's even worse? So she lives there, and she lives in like a house, a 6-person house, like it's like a abandoned frat house. And so she lives with 5 other people. And Illinois State, they'll do this. I don't know why. The clubs will like reach out to these big houses and be like, hey, we want to have a fundraiser for our club. Can we have a party at your house? Like, we'll buy everything, like the alcohol, everything. And so they do that like every other weekend. They'll have like huge ragers at their house, and they have this like unfinished basement. It's literally just concrete walls and a dirt floor. And they have bands from the university go and perform in their basement. And so like it is the craziest thing I had ever seen. I have never seen anything like that in my life, but it was like truly the best one of a kind experience. Like seeing live music in my friend's basement and like just going up through her house, and like there was like a bar, like it was like $10 to get in, like not for me though. Bestie rights.
Yeah. Swag, VIP.
Exactly. And so like when they're doing all these parties and stuff, a lot of her roommates like also go to classes. Like they do not clean. It is a mess.
And I could not imagine the mess left after a party like that.
Right. And then like I know Allie's not the one. Allie is clean. Allie takes care of her stuff. Like Allie, I lived with her for a whole year, and I would live with her for the rest of my life. Like such a great roommate. But when I go over to their place, like the floors are sticky. Like every single dish they possibly own is in the sink. They don't have any cups. Like no one in that, like they don't really know like what stuff they have. Like they're really sweet people. It's just like when you're running,
the party life got to them.
Right. The parties are taken over. And so like every time I think about Allie, I'm just like, Allie.
You think about it, the angel that has fallen because of
like, you need to
because
come
of
back.
party life.
I want to take care of you. I will baby you.
I'll make you some chicken parm.
I'll make you chicken parm. I'll make you egg sandwiches. I'll do whatever you want. Just
please,
my woman, come back. And it was so sad. And so when they left, so we had a 4-person unit, 2 bathrooms. And me and my roommate, Caitlin, we just got to stay there by ourselves. The other 2 rooms, they just left empty. And then the apartment complex, they're like, oh, you can keep the keys. We want to collect all the keys at the same time, like when everyone moves out, so you guys can just keep the spare keys. I was like,
you're like,
oh.
two free rooms. So you guys have the party room now and the painting room.
Oh, no, better.
Oh.
I turned one room into a cat room.
Oh, wow, for all the, yeah.
I have 2 cats at home, and so I just, like, filled Allie's room, like, with all my cat stuff, so the cats, like, cat trees, like, I had the food, like, the cat litter boxes in there, so I wouldn't have to smell
the cat
anywhere.
Jungle gym and all the food.
Oh, my gosh, and it was so fun, because then, like, if you're ever having a bad day, you could just go in the cat room, and...
I get crawled all over.
Oh, my gosh, and they're so sweet. And then the other room Caitlin took, and that was just, like, a storage, so she has tons of clothes, because... she just never grows out of clothes, so she just like constantly accumulates. And so she literally was taking up both closets so that she could have enough room for all the clothes. And it was a good time, you know. It was just the 2 of us chilling in our 4-person apartment. But we accumulated a lot of stuff, you know. We filled the apartment. And then I had another friend that I met from the dorms, Veronica. And Veronica ended up moving in with us this year. And that was a lot of fun. I love Veronica. Sweetheart. Bestie for the restie. And then
this is just shout out. This is your Oscars.
Yeah, this is just a shout out to all my besties. I love all my besties, and they deserve the world. Thank you. And so then we were like, okay, just the 3 of us. Like, this is perfect. And so part of the contract is like, when the rooms are empty, our rent doesn't change. Our rent stays the same. We rent by room.
Okay.
But that means that the apartment complex has every right to fill you with random roommates. Like, they got to make their money. They have to fill the room.
Oh, is Satan there now?
No, well, so we got assigned a random roommate at first, and I was pissing myself, not even gonna lie. I was like, we have so much stuff.
What about the cat room?
Exactly. I turned that room into a cat room, and if anything, I just felt bad. I was like, dang, like that room does kind of smell like a cat litter box now.
It's gonna
and
smell
now,
like cat pee.
And now someone's got to live in there. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about the consequences of my actions. And so we were like deep cleaning it. We were scrubbing it. Like, I got everything moved out. We had to rearrange the entire living room. And when I was trying to contact this new roommate, she wouldn't call me, she wouldn't email me back, she wouldn't text me for like 2 weeks. And I was like, dude, you're supposed to move in like 2 days. So I'm not comfortable with you being my roommate if you can't even communicate with me on just like when you're gonna move in.
Had she like actually never responded, or did she just say like nothing and then not respond?
No, like literally never said anything. The apartment complex gave me like her contact information. I was able to find her email through like the Iowa State directory to like try to just get a hold of her, and I just got radio silence.
Yeah.
And I was like freaking out. And then when she did end up eventually texting me back, she was like, oh, some of the paperwork actually got messed up. I was supposed to be assigned to the unit across the street. And I was like, oh my God, God. Oh my gosh. And I was like, wow, crisis averted. No, a month later, the exact same thing happened.
A month later, she came back.
No, we got assigned a different random roommate.
Is she good, though?
She's actually so sweet.
Okay.
She's actually so sweet.
Honestly,
But
it sounds like you're gonna love every roommate that you have. It doesn't really sound like you're gonna have a roommate that like is a bad.
I think it's because my first ever roommate in the dorms was so bad that now any other roommate is like,
You have
you are
super
an
high.
angel.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I would do
Yeah.
anything for you. Thank you so much for like not being so crazy. Wow, an
Yeah.
icon.
I know my freshman year when I moved into the dorm, I had the same situation. The guy moved in a week late and never talked to me ever. Like he wouldn't
Ugh.
respond to me. And he comes in and he's like this 21-year-old senior who is from Connecticut and he hunts black bears. And like country boy, he maybe stayed in the dorm for a week total. Like he never slept there. I pretty much was just alone in the room.
Do you
I
think he had
didn't
like a girlfriend or something?
No, he stayed with like his boss, which is yeah, low key kind of weird. But
Okay.
he was a really nice, wholesome guy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, I didn't even notice he moved in. He had
Yeah.
so little stuff that I didn't even know that he was there. He didn't bring bed sheets. He brought one pillow and a tiny blanket, and no bed,
Wow.
and he just he just slept on the bed raw.
A real man's
Yeah,
man.
yeah. And so like he was never there, and he would hunt ducks, and I think the only issue that I had is his clothes were rank. His clothes is the
Were they
worst
like
smell
locked?
I've ever. I don't know what. It was the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life. It was like swamp water, poop water, and then he just
Ugh.
like he said that he wanted to leave them outside the room, but he forgot. So they sat in my room for like 3 hours. And so while he felt so bad while I was sleeping, he brought Febreze in and was like squirting the room, and he got me like he was squirting me with it, and I was like, that's so wholesome. I was like, that's
What
kind
a
of.
sweetie.
I was like, that's kind of cute. Okay, I forgive you. I was
Okay,
like,
fine. We can be
okay,
besties
fine. Yeah,
again.
yeah. I was like, all right.
Um,
Yeah, he was super chill. I don't know, my first year, I had a drunk girl walk into my room while he wasn't there, just in the middle of the night. It was like 5 o'clock on a Tuesday.
you didn't know her?
No, I had no idea. Like I just
Ugh.
I told the story for one of my comedy sets actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so how it goes is I had woken up and when my roommate would come, he would come in like the middle of the night. And so it'd be dead set, just dead and it'd be like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
So when I heard someone rummaging around our room, I just assumed it was him.
Yeah.
And so I hear nothing. I hear someone and I wake up a little bit and then I try to go back to sleep and then I hear like this crash and I hear this person just in the corner of my room going like like straight up Minecraft zombie like noises. And so obviously I was like, that is not Joe. Joe is my roommate.
Mhm.
And so I was like, that is not him. And so I sit up and I'm like, excuse me, you're in the wrong room. And I just get no response. And I was like, excuse me, you're in the wrong room. And no response. And then the lights come on and there's this girl just standing in the room. And I just like look at her and then she looks at me and then she just turns the light back off. Like, oops. I was like, whoa. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, you're in the wrong room. And then nothing. I was like, okay, I'm getting up. So I
She
got
didn't even
up.
move?
No, no moving. So I got up and I turned the light on and she's just a foot away from me staring at me like this. And I was like, okay, this girl's either zoinked, she is sleepwalking, or super drunk.
Oh,
One of the three.
no.
And so I'm like, excuse me, ma'am. This is like the fifth time I've said it. I was like, excuse me, you're in the wrong room. And she's like, what? I was like, you're in the wrong room. And she's like, what? I was like, step outside with me for a second. So I
Let's
opened,
just talk.
yeah, I was like, so I opened the door and she has one shoe, like a purse and a jacket, just like leaning against my door. She was like stripping on our way here. And so I was like, is this your stuff? And she's like, oh, that's so embarrassing. I was like, do you live in Willow? And then she's like, how did you know? I was like, because that's where we are right now. and so I was like, do you live on the first floor? And she's like, no, I live right here. She went to my room. I was like, that's my room. We just came out of there. Do you live on the first floor? She's like, no, I live right here. I was like, let's take a walk. So we
You
walked.
don't live here.
On our way down, I was just in my socks. I was just in my robe and like no shoes. And I
Mhm.
stepped in something wet on my way there. I do not want to think about what that was. I think that was the worst part of
Piss.
the night. Yeah. Yeah. It was her throw up, like minutes. I don't know what it was. I
Oh.
didn't smell it or anything, but
Those are good odds, though.
yeah,
Those are good odds.
it's pretty, yeah. And so I was like, and so I walked her and she kind of sobered up and she's like, oh, I mixed up the room numbers. This is a pretty honest mistake if you were like plastered.
Yeah.
And so I walk her to her room and in front of her room, there's another shoe and the key is in the lock. It was like I was following like a breadcrumb trail of clothes. And so I was like, is this your room? And she's like, oh, yeah. And she tries to unlock it. She has a bathroom key instead of the normal key. And so she's like, can you do this? And I was like, It's 5 o'clock. I was so tired. I was like, yeah, fine. And so I go and I unlock the door, and then she steps in, and then she like looks at me, and her eye like twitches. This was easily the like most like I don't know if I could mimic like the look she gave me was literally like, and I was like, and she's like, "Do you want to come in?" And I was like, "No."
Oh
So
God,
I was
no.
like, "No," and she's like, she was offended. She's like, "What? Why?" It's like, "Cause I have a girlfriend," and she's like, Me too." I was like, "Okay, go to sleep and like never leave your room ever again." And then she's like, "I love you," and I was like, "Go to bed."
You
And
should
then
have
I
just
just
been,
walked away.
I would have just said, you know what, go to bed, and if you can find me in the morning, I will marry you.
Yeah, I was like,
If
if
you
you
can figure,
remember this.
if you remember this, we will be together
I'm really
forever.
hoping there's this moment where we walk by each other and then we just she like kind of sees me and she's like she's like I remember you from like some fever dream I had of me walking into your room one time.
No, right? I feel like what's gonna happen is like this podcast right now is actually gonna go mega viral. I can already
Uh-huh.
feel it in my bones, and she's gonna hear this, and she's gonna be like,
Well,
"Oh
so that's
no,
funny you say
oh
that.
no."
I did that bit pretty much verbatim. So for the people that have seen that and then hear this, they're gonna just skip ahead. But um, I had actually I told this story to one of my friends, and I had been saying the real room number that she slept in
Yeah,
because why not?
yeah,
And somebody recognized her from her room number. So the girl I was telling it to, she's like, "Oh my God, is that?" I don't know what her name was. She's like, "Oh my God, is that Jessica?" I was like, "Why would I know?" And
yeah,
then she's like, "Wait, is it this girl?" And she showed me a picture. And it was her. And I was like, "One, it's tiniest world."
right.
And so I messaged or I didn't message her. She told her like, "Hey, do you remember this? Like, do you remember walking in this guy's room?" And then she said no, and she asked her to tell me something. Do you want to guess what the only thing she had to say to me after this was?
Hmm.
You would think it'd be like a sorry
Or
for
like, thank you,
traumatizing you or like thank you for not doing something horrific
like,
or
thank you for
like
taking me
walking me
home.
home. Yeah, and or any of that. Not to sound entitled, okay, but
It's just
like
that's the proper response.
it's like the proper. I'm not upset, but I just think it's so funny. It just adds like another layer. The only thing she asked is like, "Did I leave my rings in your room?" And I was like, "Come on!" I was like, you were like all up in my stuff. I don't know what that crash was. Also, like the crash that woke
Was there
that.
anything broken in your
No,
room?
I don't know what. I think she like fell into my futon or something.
Oh,
What was even
weird.
funnier is I was supposed to have a friend that was supposed to stay over that night, and he would have
Mm-hmm.
slept on that futon. So we'd have woken up to some girl just
Oh
crawling in his
man.
bed, and I could not even fathom what I don't know why I was so calm during that. Also, like if
It's
they,
like the morning grog.
yeah, if she would have caught me in like in my REM sleep or something, and I wake up and I'm like fight or flight, and I'm like throwing stuff at her, and I'm like, I hear that zombie noise, and I just start hucking
Just
pillows.
freaking out.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was wild though. That's like my favorite college story to tell because like how does that when does that happen?
No,
You
right?
like it's so extensive. I was
No, I remember like one of my first like dorm parties that I was like, this is crazy. I was with my scary roommate, my scary dorm roommate, and like at the time me and her were fighting. She was just like really like emotionally attached to me, like really unhealthily and like needed my attention at all times, or like if I was going out with other friends, like would just get like super jealous and hostile, and it was like so uncomfy. So like at the time, like we were just like not talking. I was like, we just are not friends. Happens, but like I can still go to parties with people. Like I'm not gonna sit there cause a scene. Like I want
mhm.
to party, they want to party. It doesn't
I'm gonna
matter.
leave because she's here. Like you're
It's
not doing
just
stuff.
not that deep, you know.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time, and that's what's important. But she ended up getting like plastered. Oh my god, she was so drunk. Like she was throwing up by like 10:30. Like that is the
Oh,
most embarrassing thing
poor
I'd ever
yeah.
seen. And so there was this guy at a part at like there. We were at the 8th floor of Willow at the time, and so there was some guy there, like comforting her. Like he had his arm around her, like while she's throwing up in a trash can, and like one of my friends, like one of my roommates from my apartment, she like started pointing at this guy, and she's like, "Get him away from her. This guy cannot be near her. Get him out." And I was just like, "Oh, whoa,
Like
I
what's up?
what is going on? Like, excuse me, like what is going on?" And like she's also drunk, and she's just like, "That is a bad guy." And so like turns out like there was like some stuff going around that he was just kind of like a manipulator, and he had like just been inappropriate with other girls before.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Just like a weirdo, you know? And so I was like the only one sober enough, so I had to like go confront the guy, and I was just like, hey, my roommate's not doing too good. I'm gonna take her downstairs to our friend's dorm. Like, thank you so much for taking care of her. Like, I got it from here. Like, I'll take care of my roommate. And he's
It's
like,
nice that you were respectful about it too, not to just like jump onto it and like.
because it was already like so scary. Like my friend like just started like yelling at him, like freaking out, and I was just like, whoa, this cannot go this way.
Yeah,
Like this can be different. So and when I said that, he was just like, no, you have a good time. Like, don't worry about, like, I got this taken care of. Like, don't you worry about it. And I was just like, unfortunately, sir, that is just not how this works. Like,
Yeah.
I do not like this person, but for the safety and well-being of the world, I have to be the hero now.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
unfortunately. And so I know that she gets like super motion sick. Like, even sober cannot take the elevator without like literally throwing up.
Wow.
So bad. And so we were on the 8th floor. Our friend's dorm's on the 4th floor. So I had to just throw her over my shoulder and get marching down the stairs.
Yeah.
She threw up on my back. And like I am just having a miserable time, and so I get her to the dorm room, and like her and one of our other friends is just throwing up on the floor. The rug is ruined. Like they are just causing a mess, and so me and my other friend we're cleaning it up. We're taking care of them. We get them like blankets, water, and the trash can. Be like, you're on your own for the night for now. Stay in this room. I'm going to bed.
And then she walked into my room. And
Yeah, exactly.
that night, yeah.
But I ended up going to bed, and what was funny is when I was climbing up like the dorm ladder, Allie actually, she was passed out on the ground, and I was walking up to get into her bed, and I knocked down her TV onto her and broke her TV on her butt because I just like flipped it onto her. And I like didn't even think about it at first. I just picked up the TV and went to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, like my roommate and Allie, they were on the ground, like just talking. Like it was like 6 a.m. and they were just like chit chatting. And it's a dorm room. Like it's not like you have that much space for like quiet. So me and the other person in the beds, we were like, hey, can you guys just like go to the den or something? Like we're really tired. Like we kind of had to take care of you guys last night. Like can you guys just like go to the den or something? And my roommate was so mad at me. She was so mad that I asked her to leave, and she was like, well, you know what, that's karma for you, as she walked out the door. And like, I just went back to bed. I didn't even think about it. I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean karma?
That would have been very upsetting.
And so basically, like, what it came down to is, like, she was mad that I drug her out of the party. She was like, I was having such a fun time. Like, what? Like, I can't believe, like, you'd interfere in, like, my life. Like, I'm having my own fun time. And I was like, I thought you were in danger. You didn't even know that I brought you down here.
Yeah, you were throwing up on the way down.
You threw up on my shirt, my guy.
And on my rug. And, ooh, that'd be frustrating.
No, so that's when, like, like before, like I can usually handle conflict and like I could just roll with it. Like I was like, you know what, I don't really like this person, but I could like withstand it for the year. But after that, like it wasn't even like a sadness. Like I was so lividly angry that like I couldn't get over it. I was like, you know what, for the safety of her, like for me to not like freak out and like lose my marbles, I have to move rooms.
Yeah,
I have to switch rooms.
Yeah, that that frustrates me just hearing of it, because I mean you did exactly like ISU should have recorded that and then put that as their like the sobriety video that they do where it's like, get your friend out of trouble. Like here are the green dots. Like you literally put a green dot down right there,
I
right then and there.
hit all the check marks, and like it, like I was like drinking at the time too. Like I was under the influence, and like I am just like a genius guy. Like not to be conceited, but it's like I know all the right steps.
Not to flex or anything.
Not to flex, but I am kind of the best guy.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah.
So it was just like so disappointing, like that someone could think I was doing a bad thing because I was looking out for their safety. Like you could be so inconsiderate to not even take into account, like I didn't have to do that for you. We were not friends at the time.
Do you think that she just didn't know what happened? Like she really doesn't understand what was going on?
I think it's between
like, do you want to give her the benefit of the doubt on, because I don't think there's a single way that any human could have that done for them and then not be able to see that.
Right.
I refuse to believe that that's
I think
the
it's
case.
partially that. Like, I don't think she truly knew, like, the entire, like, scope of the situation. And besides that, like, she was already kind of petty. So, like, because we were, like, beefing already, like, I'm not the type to, like, hold it against anyone. Like, if I don't like you, that's fine. Like, I hope other people like you. Hopefully you have friends somewhere else. Just know it's not me.
Okay.
But she was just kind of, like, malicious. Like, she just wanted, like, she would just go for the throat. Like she would just say the most petty stuff to me all the time. Like, you know, that's karma for you. It's just like, it's so unnecessary. Like, could you just, if you were angry at me, like, so what?
Just do it in silence.
Go to the den and hate me forever. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about your opinion. I wanted to just make sure you lived. Okay?
Yeah,
That's it.
just
Simple.
Yeah, because if something bad would have happened, like I would have never left her mind ever.
Ever.
And it's like, and she would have blamed you. That's another thing. So like
Like,
there's
whether
really
it be
no
me-
winning. There's no winning for you because if that would have happened, she would have blamed you too. Again, I don't want to poop on her because there is no conceivable way that she
Right.
understood fully that night.
I think at the time, like, we were freshmen in college. Like, I think she was just immature, petty, and, like, didn't really understand, like,
Like she was working on it.
right.
Yeah.
And, like, I hope that she's a better person now, and I bet she is. But, like,
Then yeah, again,
there's just some things that, like, I can't personally get over. Like, and that's when, like, I had to separate myself from this situation, knowing that, like, stuff like that, like, I take really personal, like, especially when at the end of the day, I know 100% I did the right thing. I did what needed to be done. And, like, sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. And so when I have to put in that much effort to go out of my way for someone I didn't like to
and
begin
then you just
with,
get dunked on.
oh, man.
yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things. I was like, I know that I'm going to make your life terrible. Like, I have malicious intent for you now, and that's just not healthy
death.
for you.
It's
That's
death.
going to take up so much of my time. I have calculus. I don't have time to try to plot your, like, demise.
Yeah.
Like, that's just too much work.
Yeah, I hear that a lot about like girls' dorms where like when you do a roommate, like don't do it with like a good friend of yours because you'll just end up hating them or
That's
something.
exactly what I did.
And
yeah.
then at Woodward Academy, which is I was telling you about that before, like the institution for like youth and what, the stuff you'll hear about the girls' dorms are like so bad.
Right.
Like I had heard apparently somebody on the girls' dorm, she stole a bunch of pills, crushed them up, and put them into a staff's water bottle to like murder her.
Oh my
Like in
gosh.
in a slow, terrible way.
Wow.
Like with the guys, what like it takes like 10 people to put them down, to, like take them down when they're causing fits and stuff.
Yeah.
But once they're down, they don't really fight as much anymore.
Right.
No, the girls, they just convulse and scream, and they'll do it for hours because they just have the energy for it.
Right.
And it's like they go for death. They go for
Right.
the throat. And so that stuff, I just don't know if like with guys, like I said, like guys, they just bring stinky clothes in and they'll party at your dorm.
Yeah.
But other than that, we don't I couldn't understand, like I couldn't imagine having to deal with that like petty that
it's a lot.
I have sympathy for you on that.
But
because-
like I have to admit, like, I have been there before. I have been the petty one, but now that I am older, now that I have like ascended
And
to
wiser.
a higher level,
Yeah.
I can be normal now.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never forget like being in high school and me and my best friend, like I was going through a really nasty breakup and this guy was just a jerk, and I was like, you know what? We got to make a stink bomb. We got to make something crazy. And so we went absolutely nuclear. I'm talking like we took this jar, we filled it with an egg, some ham, we filled it with toilet paper for a carbon source, really get it going. We put in like a bunch of old leftovers that her mom had sitting around, and then we essentially just put it outside for a month. We just set it outside.
I cannot believe
This
that.
was so premeditated.
I know.
And it was so evil. And so
That's wicked.
my ex at the time, he was like going on a school trip. So he had like a duffel bag sitting out by the door.
No.
And I like,
is
everyone was
heinous.
gone. No one's looking around. And I dumped it. I dumped the stink bomb and I left and I went
my.
home. No one ever caught me.
I'll say, you ever regret that?
No.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, he deserved it. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
he so
that's-
deserved it.
I can't, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't have that tendency, but that's hilarious.
Oh, it's so good. And honestly, sometimes like it's so satisfying, especially like obviously I'm an adult and there are consequences to my actions now, so I can't do it. But in high school, like
Oh,
when
what are they
someone,
gonna? They're just gonna yell at you? What are
oh
they gonna
no, I'm gonna get a suspension. Oh no, oh god. Like it's so silly. Like there were so many things that we did in high school that like is so evil. There was one time like we had an honors geometry teacher we just did not like. He was just a turd and he was really bad at teaching geometry. And so someone like brought in an Allen wrench and we took out all the bolts in his chair, but it was still standing.
do?
It was still standing.
That's like
and
an office prank.
Exactly. It was like the stupidest thing ever. And so he like sat on it and the chair collapsed. And he was just so like he was like did not say a word. Like was so
It's 'cause
disappointed.
he got.
And then he literally quit his job.
Oh,
He
jeez.
literally quit his job. He was like one of the AP computer science teachers too. Like he taught a lot of stuff and he was like, no.
Do you think it was because of that?
Oh yeah, we picked on him all the time. That wasn't the only thing we did.
That's pretty bad.
Someone took a baked potato and like, you know how teachers, they have like cabinets and they'll have like boxes on top. Someone took a baked potato from the school cafeteria and just tossed it up there, just like tossed it up into a box, and they're like, teacher, you know, there's a baked potato up there. You have food up there. And so he thought they were messing with him. He's like, nah, like the potato up in that box. No way. Yes, there was. And so then the prank is that his room stunk so bad because then we all end up leaving for Christmas break. And so it was there all
Chasey,
Christmas
I think you're going
break.
to hell for this.
I didn't do it.
I think you're going straight down.
I didn't do it. I did endorse it, but I didn't do it. It's different.
Holy cow. The stuff we did was so little. Like, we had this new teacher fresh out of the block, and we had 4 urinals, no walls. And there's like a guy code where like you don't pee next to somebody. Like that's just the rule. You skip the urinal. Whenever he was in there though, we'd all get in the bathroom and all go right next to him. And then he would spend 3 minutes walking all the way down to the teacher's lounge bathroom every single time because we bullied him out of there.
Wow.
But that's the word, and that's just like little. You know what I mean? Like we never did anything like that. Holy cow.
No, and plus like when I was in high school, like a lot of me and my friends, we would watch like Jackass. And so we were always
it's just fuming with ideas, huh?
Right. We were like, oh man, let's do like crazy stuff. So my friends would always like, we would like be paying each other crazy amounts of money to do the dumbest stuff. I watched a guy like snort a whole line of chili powder for $20. Like just for $20.
We had a kid who was into that, like just snorting random things.
Right. And then like they would do some stuff that was really gross. There was one, I pranked them so hard. They got straight up scammed by me. If any of my friends from high school hear this, you got scammed. One of my friends, he like blew his nose in a tissue, and it was like real gross. He was like getting over a cold, and he's like, Chasey, we will give you $50 if you eat this tissue. And we were like in the middle of a classroom, right? We're in the middle of a classroom.
That's
and I was
vile. First of all.
Oh my God. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, we're in the middle of class, guys. Like I think it was the honors geometry class. I think it was actually him. I think we were just messing around. And I was like, well, guys, we're kind of in the classroom. Like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Watch this. And so I literally just like took the tissue and I went into the bathroom and I threw it away and I washed my hands and I came back and I was like, ew, that was so gross. Ew.
How did you get away with that?
And then they just gave me $50.
Wow. I cannot believe you got away with that.
No, it was amazing. Like, they really trusted me like that.
I was just saying, you're abusing your friends.
They're the ones who wanted me to eat a snotty tissue. That's psychologically messed up.
That's toxic friend behavior. You totally.
But it's okay for them to want me to eat a snotty tissue.
Because they knew you'd take the
Exactly.
beverage advice. We're running on an hour, so if you want to plug the comedy club and like actual, get real people to run it,
yes,
go ahead and do that.
We do need cabinet members. The Iowa State Stand-Up Comedy Club. We meet at 0105 Curtis every Wednesday, 6 to 7:30. We have open mics at Mother's every other Wednesday. The open mics are a ton of fun. Anyone can come up, do 5 minutes. We don't have one this week, but we have one next Wednesday. I don't know that date off the top of my head. I'm bad at numbers.
That's all good.
And then you can also find us doing stuff at the M Shop all the time. Like every open mic, all of us comedy kids are usually there. We like getting food together. We like spending quality time. We like going to haunted houses together. And sometimes we have unlimited shrimp Red Lobster competitions. So it's worth joining for sure. Come by the Stand-Up Comedy Club and you'll be at least entertained, like at least a little.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast. It was awesome having you on here, Chasey. This is a ton of fun. So I'm gonna go in there and hit stop in a minute, so you can get up to, and they'll just look at the video screen while I cut this out. But thank you so much.
No problem.